The orthopedic surgeon didn't understand what he was looking at. The skeletal remains from a 1620s construction site in Prague showed bone density 40% higher than modern construction workers, showed muscle attachment points suggesting strength levels comparable to modern Olympic weightlifters, despite the individual showing no evidence of specialized athletic training, showed joint surfaces with cartilage preservation patterns indicating they'd performed repetitive heavy labor for decades, yet showed minimal degenerative damage that such labor normally produces. And most puzzling, showed inner ear bone structures enlarged beyond normal human variation, modifications that modern anatomy recognizes as occurring only in populations experiencing sustained exposure to specific sound frequencies. He published preliminary findings in 2003, noted the bone density anomaly, mentioned the unusual inner ear structures, suggested the population might have worked in environments with unusual acoustic characteristics, proposed follow-up study to examine more remains from the same period and region. The proposal was rejected. His funding for other projects was not renewed. He took a position at a different institution and didn't publish further on the topic. The skeletal samples were returned to storage with notes indicating they'd been fully studied. The anomalies he'd documented were not mentioned in subsequent archaeological reports on the site. Standard suppression pattern, except the doctor had sent tissue samples to 3 different laboratories before losing access to the remains. Had secured enough data that when I found his unpublished work, I could verify what he'd found, could confirm the bone density measurements, could validate the inner ear enlargement, could connect his findings to similar anomalies in skeletal remains from other 1600s construction sites across Central Europe, could see the pattern he'd started to recognize before his research was shut down. Construction workers from Tartarian territories in the 1600s weren't just stronger than modern workers, were biologically modified, were showing anatomical adaptations to sustained acoustic exposure, were exhibiting performance characteristics that make sense only if their work environments were generating specific sound frequencies that enhance their physical capabilities. The 1600s construction sites weren't just using acoustic levitation to move stones. We're using acoustic frequencies to optimize the human workers operating the systems. We're treating the workers as biological engines that could be tuned and enhanced through proper frequency exposure. The mechanism isn't mysterious if you understand modern bioacoustics. Specific infrasonic frequencies increase muscle efficiency by optimizing motor neuron firing patterns. Create measurable strength increases of 15 to 25% during exposure. Other frequencies affect bone metabolism, increasing mineral deposition and density. Others influence endocrine function, elevating testosterone and growth hormone naturally. Others affect pain perception, allowing sustained effort without the fatigue signals that normally limit exertion. The effects are dose-dependent. Brief exposure produces temporary effects. Sustained chronic exposure produces permanent anatomical changes visible in skeletal remains centuries later. Modern athletics accidentally discovered some of this. Whole-body vibration training using 20-40 Hz frequencies produces strength gains exceeding conventional training. Infrared therapy using specific frequencies accelerates recovery and increases performance. Certain acoustic environments improve athletic performance through mechanisms researchers don't fully understand, but which effects are measurable and reproducible. The modern discoveries are fragmentary rediscovery of what Tartarian construction sites apparently implemented systematically, using acoustic environments to optimize human biological performance for the work being performed. The Prague skeletal evidence isn't isolated. Similar findings appear in remains from construction sites across territories showing Tartarian architectural signatures. Always the same pattern: elevated bone density, hypertrophied muscle attachments, modified inner ear structures, minimal joint degeneration despite evidence of sustained heavy labor. The anatomical consistency across geographic separation proves this wasn't random genetic variation, but was systematic biological modification affecting workers in specific occupational contexts. proves the work environments were generating acoustic fields that produced measurable biological optimization in the workers exposed to them. Now think about what this means for construction capability. A worker with 20% increased strength from acoustic optimization can move 20% more weight or work 20% longer before fatigue. A crew of 100 such workers has effective capacity of 120 unoptimized workers. The acoustic enhancement doesn't just affect individual capability, but multiplies across the entire workforce, creating cumulative advantage. And this is before considering that the same acoustic systems optimizing the workers were also being used for acoustic levitation of materials. The construction sites were integrated systems where acoustic technology enhanced both the materials handling and the biological capabilities of the workers operating the systems. The work songs and chants that ethnographic records document at construction sites globally take on new meaning in this context. They weren't just coordinating rhythm or maintaining morale, were generating specific frequencies that optimized worker performance. The chants were timed to produce standing wave patterns in the work environment, were coordinated across multiple workers to create acoustic interference patterns, were sustained throughout work periods to maintain continuous frequency exposure. The songs were acoustic technology disguised as cultural practice, were operational protocols for biological optimization systems that modern observers interpret as primitive ritual when they were actually sophisticated applied bioacoustics. You've probably never thought about work songs as technology, never considered that rhythmic labor chants might be generating specific frequencies for biological effect rather than just maintaining timing. But examine the patterns. The frequencies that work chants generate cluster around the ranges modern research identifies as affecting muscle efficiency, pain perception, and endurance. The timing of chants matches the duty cycles modern whole-body vibration training uses for optimal effect. The coordination of multiple chanters creates the acoustic interference patterns that modern bioacoustics recognizes as necessary for sustained biological effect. The primitive cultural practice matches the specifications modern sports science is rediscovering for human performance optimization. The architectural acoustic optimization we've documented wasn't just for manipulating materials, was designed to create acoustic environments that optimize the workers. The geometric spaces where construction occurred were resonance chambers generating frequencies, affecting both the stones being moved and the humans doing the moving. The metallic elements in structures created electromagnetic enhancement of acoustic biological effects. The systematic design ensuring every workspace had specific acoustic characteristics wasn't just about making the acoustics pleasant, but about maintaining the frequency environments that kept the biological engines operating at enhanced capacity. The skeletal remains show the effect accumulated over careers. Workers who spent years in acoustically optimized construction environments developed permanent anatomical modifications. The bone density didn't return to normal after leaving the acoustic environment, stayed elevated throughout life. The muscle attachments remained hypertrophied, even in elderly remains, showing years of retirement after construction work ceased. The inner ear modifications persisted permanently. The biological optimization had irreversible components. Workers were being permanently enhanced through sustained acoustic exposure during their construction careers. Modern construction workers show the opposite pattern, show joint degeneration from sustained heavy labor, show bone density loss from inadequate recovery between work periods, show muscle damage accumulation from repetitive stress without biological support. The modern construction environment is biologically hostile, accelerates aging, causes chronic pain, produces disability. The contrast with Tartarian construction workers showing minimal degeneration despite heavier loads and longer careers proves that Tartarian acoustic environments were protecting workers while enhancing their capabilities, were optimizing biology rather than degrading it. Before we go further, consider whether you've experienced acoustic effects on your own physical capability. Ever noticed you can work longer or lift more when certain music is playing? Ever felt energized by specific sounds or frequencies? Ever experienced pain reduction in certain acoustic environments? The effects are real, are measurable, are experienced by everyone. Modern environments just don't systematically optimize the acoustics for biological benefit the way Tartarian construction sites apparently did. We experience fragments of what Tartarian workers experienced continuously, experience enough to recognize the effects are real, even if we don't experience the sustained optimization that produced permanent anatomical modifications. The training protocols that would have been required explain some of the craft guild mystery. Guilds tightly controlled who could become construction workers, required years of apprenticeship, maintained trade secrets. The standard explanation is they were protecting craft knowledge and economic interests. But what if they were also managing biological optimization? What if the apprenticeship period wasn't just learning construction techniques, but was the gradual exposure to acoustic environments necessary for safe biological modification? What if the trade secrets included knowledge of acoustic frequencies and their biological effects? What if guild membership wasn't just about economic control, but about ensuring only properly conditioned individuals worked in acoustic environments where untrained workers could be harmed? The harm potential is real if acoustic biological optimization was implemented without proper protocols. Too much exposure to some frequencies causes damage rather than enhancement. Exposure without gradual adaptation causes problems. Operating in acoustic environments without understanding the biological effects creates hazards. The guild system's tight control over training and access suddenly makes sense as safety protocol rather than just economic protectionism. Makes sense as managing complex technology requiring expertise rather than just hoarding construction knowledge. The guilds were protecting workers as much as protecting trade secrets. The systematic guild elimination that occurred 1700s, 1800s takes on new significance. Wasn't just about breaking economic monopolies, was about eliminating the organizational structures that maintained knowledge of acoustic biological optimization, was ensuring the knowledge of how to safely implement biological enhancement through acoustic exposure was lost along with the knowledge of acoustic levitation and acoustic cutting, was comprehensive suppression of entire technological system, including the biological component, and it worked. Modern construction operates without any systematic biological optimization. Modern workers' bodies degrade from the labor rather than being protected and enhanced. The knowledge of how to create work environments that support and optimize human biology rather than damaging it was lost when the guilds were destroyed. Subscribe if you're starting to realize that primitive construction methods might have been biologically sophisticated systems we've lost, and that modern construction actually represents technological regression in how we treat the human workers doing the labor. Because what comes next shows exactly how the biological optimization worked, and why modern labor systems can't acknowledge that better methods existed. The frequency combinations that optimize human performance are increasingly understood through modern research but aren't being applied systematically. Studies show 20 Hz whole-body vibration increases muscle efficiency. 40 Hz improves proprioception and coordination. 7-8 Hz infrasound affects brain state and reduces pain perception. 528 Hz affects cellular repair. Combinations of frequencies produce synergistic effects exceeding individual frequency benefits. The modern research is rediscovering what the skeletal evidence suggests. Tartarian construction environments provided continuously multi-frequency acoustic fields optimizing multiple aspects of human performance simultaneously. The power requirements for biological optimization are much lower than for acoustic levitation. Biological effects occur at sound pressure levels that are comfortable to experience, don't require the enormous power that moving stones requires, can be generated with relatively simple resonance chambers and modest acoustic sources. The same architectural acoustic systems generating power for material manipulation would have provided more than adequate acoustic field for biological optimization. The workers benefited from acoustic effects at all times, receiving optimization even when the heavy acoustic levitation wasn't operating. The biological enhancement was continuous ambient effect of working in acoustically optimized spaces. The recovery protocols that modern sports science uses match what guild training would have required. Gradual exposure to whole-body vibration, starting with low intensity and building over weeks. careful monitoring of individual response, adjustment of frequencies and duration based on effects observed, rest periods allowing biological adaptation. The same protocols modern trainers use to safely implement vibration training would have been necessary for safely adapting workers to acoustic construction environments. The Guild apprenticeship system provided exactly this: years of gradual exposure, starting with tasks in less intense acoustic zones and progressing to full participation in high-power acoustic construction operations only after biological adaptation was complete. The workplace design at Tartarian construction sites would have segregated spaces by acoustic intensity: apprentice workers in peripheral areas with mild acoustic enhancement, journeyman workers in intermediate zones with moderate optimization, master workers in the most intense acoustic zones at the core construction areas, where maximum biological capability was required. The spatial organization enforced progressive exposure, prevented inexperienced workers from being harmed by acoustic intensities they weren't adapted to, and created visible career progression as workers moved physically closer to the most demanding and most rewarding work areas. The architecture managed the biological optimization system through spatial design. The age of construction workers in Tartarian system was probably older than modern construction workers, and this would have been advantage, not limitation. The biological optimization accumulated over years would have made experienced workers increasingly capable. A 60-year-old master who'd worked in acoustic environments for 40 years would have bone density, muscle capacity, and joint health exceeding a 25-year-old modern worker. Would have brought 4 decades of accumulated acoustic optimization to his work. The skeletal evidence shows workers staying active in construction through ages where modern workers are forced into retirement by accumulated damage. Shows Tartarian construction benefited from, rather than being limited by worker aging, because the acoustic environment supported biological maintenance rather than causing degeneration. The modern construction industry couldn't implement this even if the knowledge was available. Modern construction economics require maximum short-term productivity, require workers producing immediately without years of apprenticeship preparing them, require standardized environments applicable across multiple sites without site-specific acoustic design, require labor mobility where workers move between projects without long-term commitment to particular work environments. Every characteristic of modern construction economics conflicts with the requirements for biological optimization through sustained acoustic exposure in carefully designed environments. The system can't be implemented in fragments. Required integrated approach that modern labor economics makes impossible. The implications for modern worker health are stark. Construction workers show the highest rates of chronic pain, disability, early retirement from physical capacity loss, show dramatically reduced life expectancy compared to general population, show rates of musculoskeletal disorders far exceeding other occupations. All of this is accepted as inevitable cost of physical labor, but the Tartarian skeletal evidence proves it's not inevitable, proves construction work performed in properly designed acoustic environments produces minimal degeneration, maintains health into old age, creates workers who get stronger rather than weaker over their careers. Modern construction worker health crisis is artificial result of operating without the biological optimization that proper acoustic environments provide. The regulatory framework preventing implementation would be enormous even if knowledge was available. OSHA standards for workplace noise assume all sustained sound exposure is harmful. Don't have categories for beneficial acoustic exposure. Modern building codes don't consider acoustic optimization for biological effect. Labor regulations don't accommodate multi-year apprenticeships, gradually adapting workers to specialized work environments. Environmental regulations restrict sound generation without distinguishing harmful from beneficial frequencies. The entire regulatory structure would need rebuilding to allow implementation of acoustic biological optimization even if the technology was recovered. The suppression is embedded in regulations that make the system illegal to implement. What modern construction lost when Tartarian methods were suppressed wasn't just the ability to move massive stones, was the entire system of supporting and protecting human workers while enhancing their capabilities. Was the knowledge of how to create work environments that optimize rather than degrade human biology? Was the understanding that proper acoustic design could make physical labor sustainable across entire careers rather than progressively destroying workers' bodies? The loss to human welfare was catastrophic and is continuing daily in every modern construction site where workers labor in acoustically hostile environments that damage rather than support their biology. The worker testimony that exists from transitional periods when old methods were being replaced shows awareness of the loss. Records from 1800s describing old craftsmen lamenting that younger workers lack the old strength and endurance. Describing buildings being harder to build now than in grandfather's time, attributing this to moral decline or loss of work ethic when it was actually describing the biological effects of losing acoustic optimization. The workers knew they were less capable than previous generations, attributed it to cultural factors rather than environmental factors, because they didn't understand the role of acoustic environments in developing and maintaining their predecessors' capabilities. Modern workplace wellness programs attempting to support worker health through gym memberships and ergonomic assessments are addressing symptoms while ignoring the fundamental problem. The work environment itself is biologically hostile. No amount of after-work exercise compensates for spending 8 to 10 hours daily in acoustic environment that degrades rather than optimizes biology. The solution isn't supplemental fitness, but is redesigning work environments to support biology the way Tartarian construction sites did. That's not happening because it would require acknowledging that previous civilizations had more sophisticated understanding of human biological needs than our current industrial model provides. Why does acknowledging this matter beyond just historical accuracy about construction methods? Because we're destroying human bodies through work environments designed for short-term productivity without biological support. Because the evidence proves better methods existed. Because modern sports science is fragmentarily rediscovering principles that Tartarian construction applied systematically. Because refusing to investigate how acoustic environments can optimize rather than degrade human biology is condemning workers to preventable disability and suffering. The suppression isn't just hiding history, is preventing recovery of knowledge that could dramatically improve modern worker health and capability. You can test this yourself in limited ways. Experiment with whole-body vibration platforms that fitness centers have. Notice how they affect your strength and endurance. Try different frequencies of music during physical tasks and observe the effects on your performance. Pay attention to how your capability varies in different acoustic environments. The effects are real, are immediate, are experienced by everyone. Modern commercial fitness technology provides glimpses of what Tartarian construction environments provided comprehensively, provides enough access to validate that acoustic enhancement of human biological performance is real, even if modern implementation is fragmentary compared to what Tartarian system achieved. The biological engines were humans, were construction workers whose bodies were optimized for their work through sustained exposure to carefully designed acoustic environments. We're developing progressive biological enhancement over years of adaptation. We're experiencing support and protection from the same acoustic fields that were moving the stones they were positioning. We're biological components of integrated construction system where acoustic technology enhanced both material handling and human capability simultaneously. The engine's designation captures what they were. Biological systems being powered and optimized through external acoustic energy, operating at levels exceeding unenhanced human baseline, producing work output impossible without the acoustic support they were receiving. The impossibility that Tartarian construction achieved becomes less impossible when you account for the biological optimization. Standard human capability can't move 800-ton blocks or work for decades without degeneration. But humans with 20% strength enhancement, reduced pain perception, accelerated recovery, and protected joint health operating acoustic levitation systems. That combination makes the impossible construction achievable through entirely explainable engineering. No aliens needed, no magic, just sophisticated understanding of how acoustic technology could enhance both materials and biology simultaneously. Understanding we've lost. Understanding we need to recover. The modern parallel is doping in athletics, except the acoustic enhancement was legal, was healthy, produced permanent beneficial changes rather than temporary dangerous effects, was environmental optimization rather than chemical intervention, was supporting natural biological processes rather than disrupting them, was available to everyone working in proper environments rather than being restricted to those willing to take health risks. The comparison shows that human performance enhancement isn't inherently harmful or cheating, depends on the method. Acoustic biological optimization was ethical enhancement that improved health while increasing capability. Modern pharmacological enhancement damages health while increasing capability. We chose the harmful path when we lost knowledge of the healthy path. The research that could validate all of this exists, but isn't being funded. Could analyze skeletal remains from multiple construction sites, comparing acoustic environments to biological modifications. Could experimentally test sustained acoustic exposure on volunteer subjects with proper protocols. Could model the acoustic fields historical construction sites generated and verify they produce frequencies modern research identifies as biologically active. Could do everything necessary to prove the biological optimization system existed and worked. The research isn't happening because the implications threaten too many modern economic and regulatory structures. Proving previous workers were healthier and more capable challenges narratives about modern advancement. Proving better methods existed creates liability, questions about why they're not being used. The suppression continues through preventing investigation that would validate what the skeletal evidence already suggests. The guild knowledge included understanding of which frequencies enhanced which capabilities, included protocols for safe progressive exposure, included architectural design principles creating proper acoustic environments, included operational procedures for maintaining acoustic optimization during construction operations. All of this was transmitted through apprenticeship rather than written documentation. All of it was lost when the guilds were destroyed and the transmission chain was broken. Some fragments survive in craft traditions that modern researchers interpret as ritual or superstition rather than recognizing as applied bioacoustics. The work songs, the tool design incorporating acoustic properties, the spatial arrangements of workers during certain tasks, all fragments of systematic biological optimization that we no longer recognize as such. The modern worker deserves to know that their chronic pain, their progressive disability, their forced early retirement isn't inevitable, is a result of working in environments that damage rather than support their biology, is consequence of losing knowledge of how to design work environments properly, is outcome of suppression that destroyed guild systems maintaining that knowledge. The Tartarian construction workers with their enhanced bone density and minimal joint damage after decades of heavy labor prove better methods existed. The skeletal evidence shows what's possible. Modern workers experiencing opposite outcomes show what we've lost. The difference isn't biological destiny, is environmental design, is knowledge we could recover if we acknowledged it existed and investigated how to implement it in modern contexts. They weren't superhuman. We're ordinary humans working in extraordinarily well-designed acoustic environments that optimize their biology while they worked. We're benefiting from same acoustic technologies that move the stones, technologies providing biological enhancement as side effect of the acoustic power generation required for material manipulation. We're experiencing what all humans could experience in properly designed acoustic work environments. We're showing biological potential that modern workers aren't reaching because we've lost the environmental optimization that enabled it. The impossible constructions were built by biological engines, human workers operating at enhanced capacity through acoustic optimization, producing work output that seems impossible only because we've forgotten that human capability is environmentally dependent and can be dramatically enhanced through proper acoustic design. They built the impossible because the environments they worked in made them more capable than we are. That's not mystery. That's lost technology we need to recover.